Sharma, on behalf of DLF Care's Education Support Program, welcomes you to a webinar on National Educational Policy. Today, the facilitator with us is Ms. Rita Singh, who is the director of Indirapuram Group of Institutions. Ms. Rita Singh is a passionate educationist known for her hands-on approach to management of the institutions where she has worked and is working. Ma'am is presently working as director of Indirapuram Group of Institutions, which comprises of 6 schools and 3 colleges pan-India. She holds a dual master's degrees in education and mathematics, apart from MBA in marketing. She is also a member of task force with FICCI Arise. She's mentor and reviewer for SCARF, which is School Quality Assessment and Assurance Framework for CBSE. She's also piloting National Professional Standards for Teachers for NCTE. She has also been awarded as the National CBSE Teachers Award in 2019. Over to you, Rita, ma'am.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you so much. Thank you, Meenakshi, ma'am. I mean, it is indeed an opportunity which I think is going to, I was really amazed to see the combination of schools that you introduced, the kind of work they are doing. Some I had heard from you from before, but then when you talk about them, when I see them face to face, it's actually a very, very nice feeling. And as we look at the NEP and the entire purpose of it, the intent of it, I think it'll all be met by the people like who we see here in this room today. Before we actually begin, a quick tech check, if I can do with you, Tanya. I'm trying to share my screen. And let me know if it is there.
Sure, ma'am.
Are we there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, perfect. So as much as we would want this session not to be boring, but then policies are actually boring. But if you do not go by the word of it, do not go by the text of it, the moment you understand the logic behind it, the intent behind it, and most importantly, the impact that it is going to have, whatever action happened, whether it is by the principal who's devising the policies of school, or if it is the teacher who's going to do certain exercises in the classroom transactions, if they're going to be actually resulting in some impacts, the entire policy, which may be very dry, very, very formal, suddenly comes alive. So my endeavor in next 2 days, today and the next today, may be a little boring because little factual information has to be shared. I need to understand how much you know. I need to understand. I need to have a placement evaluation done to understand what do I take up in the next time when we meet again. So what I do 2 days later would totally be decided by you. I haven't even started thinking of what I'll do with you that day, because how we interact today, what actually we speak today, how do we go about today, will decide what really will happen in the next meeting. Today, I'll try to keep it interactive. However, since it is a placement evaluation which is happening of all the people who are attending the session, I need to know how deep I can dive, or how superficial I have to remain. Do I have to kind of tell you what policy is all about? Or do I kind of go one step ahead and understand how do we implement into a classroom? So all this will be decided by the interaction that we will have. First and foremost, we need to be totally chilled out. I know you guys are just back from your workplace. Please settle down, finish your work, take a glass of water, keep drinking your tea, your chai, whatever, coffee, water, whatever. Just don't mind it. Let it be a very informal session. Don't have to think too much about the formality of the session. It is important that whatever we speak or interact with or talk about today, there's a little learning or little changing in the mindset and little changes in the classroom transaction that happens. Till it does not really happen, the whole session is not going to be of much use, actually. Talking about this, let me go in the little history of it. Why is it important? Why? Because understanding what really happened all these years. yes, we got independence. Anybody who can tell me what happened in 1968? What really? Anybody who can kind of talk about the first NEP? Any idea, or can we just kind of go ahead? You could just switch on your video and talk, or we could kind of interact.
Rita,
Mhm.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, because I can't hear you. What I'm saying is 1968 with the Isha, kafi majority of the girls would not even have been born.
I'm sure about it. I'm sure about it.
Ah.
Yeah, I am visible and audible.
You're audible now. Yeah, now you're
Perfect. So all these girls who are here, why is it important? We gained independence in 1947. Our constitution was placed in 1950. It took 18 years for us to get into the first NEP. Understandable, new country. We were babies as far as the country is concerned. We were still building a constitution, putting it in place. Everything is understandable. What is not understandable is why did it take another 18 years for the second NEP to come in? Both the NEPs, 1968, 1986, both of them focused on the basically the access and equity for everyone, education for all. They all talked about it. When they talked about the access, what they did, I'm sure you would have heard the terms of Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan and things like that. Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, Sabko Shiksha Mile Ka Abhiyan. What really actually happened in that? The accessibility became most important. As a result, where did the taxes go? Where did the entire government money was spent? In creating a whole lot of schools. Even today, if you go into the remote locations, you'll probably find a school which has got one teacher, 5 students, 1 ayah to make the midday meal and things like that. There'll be 5 students and 5 staff members. So it's a very comical situation because the target, the intent was good, but the execution was not really okay. To be able to focus on the access and equity to all, what happened is the whole lot of schools were built up. Geographical locations without really looking at what was the population around, how many schools were already there, whole of schools were built up, whole of primary schools were built up. Then what happened in 1986, the focus continued to be same, little changes happened. Again, it was modified in 1992, not really bad, 6 years, a modification happened. What really were the milestones? For the first time, I'm sure RT is some term that all the Delhi schools have heard about, all the Haryana schools have heard about, all the UP schools have heard about. We would know RT, right to education. We've been talking about it. We have only understood that under RT education, this thing, government gives us certain seats and we have to put certain people in our schools who are from economically weaker background. But what really resulted in this that we have not really paid attention to. Certain good foundations like DLF are reaching or achieving RTE through establishing a whole lot of foundation schools and going across in remote locations, actually establishing schools and reaching. But there are certain schools which are just putting tick marks, and there are certain states which are just putting tick marks. So while I talk about the policy, it is important to understand why these policies fail and why these policies were successful. We might feel that we are two small players. We are probably doing a session on RT, on NEP because we've been told to do that. But till we do not really read that document, till we do not understand, whatever we can derive out of that document, please do that. Don't have to read verbatim. You don't have to learn back to back, page by page, but just try to understand the gist of it so that you actually understand whatever you do in your classrooms or whatever you do on your desk while you're sitting on your chairs as principals or heads of centers, you'll realize how is it going to impact the next generation. So this is very, very, very important. We all know what really these are the major landmarks milestone which happened, to which there was an amendment in the constitution, which really was good. Now, what do we see since 2014? All these are milestones. 4-5 things over so many years. From 2014 is something very interesting started happening. For the first time, NEP was put into political manifesto. So when BJP put this under their manifesto, that is when but then even prior to that, so many manifestos were written, so many manifestos were kind of tried to achieve. Certain manifesto points were not even looked into. They were just ignored. They were not even paid attention to. But when 2014, in 2014, BJP decided to have this as their manifesto, what really happened? Within 1 year of coming into power, a committee was set up that showed the seriousness, that showed the focus that the government had towards change, bringing in educational reforms. So that is why it was, these are the signals that actually told us that something nice and something good is going to happen. So when this TSR Subramaniam committee was set up, within 1 year, they came up with their report. Report had certain very good things if I have to look at it as an educationist. However, if I look at it, the politics, there were certain things like, let's not talk about it, I'll get into a controversial zone otherwise. It was immediately in 2016 itself, it was May 16 or something, it was brought in and it was scrapped. It was scrapped on the grounds that it was nothing but a collection of the basically extracted from the old committee reports and just kind of copy and paste, and the report was created. Timeline showed us, yes, probably it was so, because it was just within 1 year or within few months, the report was submitted. Generally, it takes much longer than that. However, there were very, very few very good points, which I think the next committee, which eventually was set up and eventually Kasturi Rangan, and which eventually came into shape. And in 2020, it came. Before it was actually passed through the parliament and it actually became an act and all those things. Prior to that, in 2018 onwards, the government started putting the drafts in the portals of HRD ministry, etc., and school education portal and things like that. Why did they do that? And again, for the first time in the history, what happened is all these draft policies were put in the open space for every stakeholder to review, which meant that parents could read and give their point of view. Of course, educationists could read and give their point of view. Schools, school administrations could read and give their point of view. Teachers could read and give their point of view. Students could read and give their point of view. And I as an individual and I as a director of group, we all must have, we spent about 2-3 months reading this draft of NEP, 2018 it was, if I remember correctly. And we actually drafted a whole lot of points and gave and things like that. And when the final draft came in, I believe there were lakhs and lakhs of emails were sent to them and lakhs suggestions came to them. I really do not know how much was sieved through, vetted through, gone through. I really do not know. However, I'm sure a whole lot of would have gone through. They would have gone through it. Why? Because you see a lot of points that you thought of, a lot of things that you discussed with your teachers, a lot of things that you had talked about in the webinars with the principals, or the Wednesday meetings with your school principals, or the various sessions or the conferences that we had over those 5-6 months. You realize a whole lot of points are there, which were not there in the draft and which are there in the final copy. So I feel for the first time, there is a seriousness in collaborative work. There is a collaboration, is not just happening. It's not just a word, it is actually happening. So suddenly you feel good. You somehow feel that you are one of the stakeholders and you're the one who probably you may not have. They may not even open your email. But the fact is, when you thought of something, it finds place in the NEP, you feel nice. You see the ownership. You realize that you've probably done something. You have added value to the education system of India. So this is with what all the educationists, when this was released, NEP 2020 was released in August, November, I'm forgetting the month. When you sieved through it and when you looked through it and you found those portions and you felt so nice about it, suddenly that connectedness was established. Suddenly that ownership was established. And then you told yourself, yes, we only have to implement it and make it happen. Whatever has come as policy must be very beautifully created as a national curriculum framework by NCERT, must be brought in the form of curriculum modules, must be broken down into micro pieces of learning outcomes, must be transacted very well in the curriculum in a classroom. And it is definitely achievable. All those big pothas and big policies and detailed pages and whole lot of articles and a whole lot of quotations and a whole lot of technical words and the committees and the associations and everything suddenly became very, very simple and very, very beautiful and very, very doable. So an educationist in me feels very happy when we see this. And the kind of happiness that we feel, we would want every educator, every person who has to do with the education, whether you are designing a curriculum or you're deciding on the administration, how the entire school layout would be, how the organizational structure of the schools would be, or you are the one who are actually designing the lesson plans. You're deciding how those 40 minutes module will be run in a classroom. Everybody makes a difference. Now, how do we make that difference? We will be talking about it eventually. Before that, little alertness. I would want everybody to be on. Do we have a chat open here? Do I see this? Do we have chat here, Tanya? And
Yes, ma'am.
chat? Yeah, perfect. So I open my chat. I can see Kanika has written yes. Now I'll be tracking this chat. And what I would request everybody, I hope you have that document also with you. Do we have that document? The NEP document with you? You can refer to it. It's an open book test, not test, open book reference. Can I have a thumbs up in case you have this with you? Where is my thumbs up? I don't see it. Or is it a Teams feature? I am not very this thing on Zoom. I don't use Zoom very often. Do we have any thumbs up or anything?
Yes, ma'am.
On those three dots? No.
Ma'am, it's in reactions.
Reactions, fine. So all of you have found the reactions. Can we put it down as yes if you have the NEP, because we need to refer to that. It's important. Otherwise, I give you 2-3 minutes. You open your, get your hard copy or you open that PDF which we have on the WhatsApp. I can request Meenakshi ma'am to share that WhatsApp, that PDF which I shared with ma'am, or I could do that. Somebody can do it in the chat box. I need to have that PDF because next session is going to be only referring to the book because it's important to read this book together. Meanwhile, while we are doing it, whoever is here, if you could tell me whatever you know of NEP, what do we know? For example, the first thing that I came to know about NEP was the changed structure of, what is the change structure?
Ma'am, it is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4.
Put it down in the chat. Because we are going to now play through the chat. We are going to talk through the chat box. We are going to speak through this. Is it this? Or no? Can anybody improve this, what I've written? Yes. Thank you, Principal Ma'am. May I know the name of the Principal Ma'am?
Neelam.
Neelam.
Thank you, Neelam Ma'am. That's perfect. So it is 5 plus 3 plus. So this is something I know. I mean, somehow I don't know anything, but I know this. So is there anything else that we know about it? Change structure of curriculum 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. Anybody, Shrestha, can you just switch on your audio and tell me what this is 5 plus 3 plus 4 quickly? Meanwhile, other people can put down something in the chat, anything that you know about. Shrestha, can we speak? Can we actually keep it a little interactive? Otherwise, you're going to be very bored if I start narrating what is written in the next slide. Are you around, Shrestha? Shrestha? You'll have to unmute yourself. Sushma Yadav, ma'am, you've also written, can you talk about, though you've written it as a direct message to me, you did write 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. Can you just tell me what this is all about? Hindi में भी बात कर सकते हैं. I really do not know. Sorry, I mean, I do not know the audience who I'm speaking to. Sushma, can we speak?
Yes, ma'am. Sushma is here.
Yeah, Sushma.
Yes, ma'am. 5 means first, second, nursery, LKG, first, second, and third.
Perfect.
That will be included in 5. Plus 3 में आएगा 4, 5, and 6. Then 7, 8, 9. And शायद wrong है, ma'am.
थोड़ा wrong लग रहा है. रीटा को बोले ठीक करने के लिए. Rita Jan, can we do it? Rita Jan, I think she was pretty close.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes, Rita.
Ma'am, 5 years of primary teaching, which in mother tongue, and then the middle level, 6th, 7th, 8th. Then after this, secondary till 11th class, and after this there are 4 years of graduation.
Okay.
Graduation also.
Can I come up?
First year for diploma, and if the student completed 2 years, the 3 years, then degree है. Diploma, certificate, diploma, and degree है. Yes. First year certificate is given if we completed first year of graduation, second year diploma, then third year degree ka, and if the child completed 4 years,
Now,
then
Rita, if I tell you,
has given
Rita, if I tell you that the entire 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 is of school education, then will you like to restructure it?
then
Because it is not about
5. Okay. मैं just senior secondary level पे चाहिए थे. 5 years थे मैम. Then mother tongue में ये UKG till UKG prime.
Yeah. So
Pre-primary, nursery, and थोड़ा सा ना मुझे lower level की class.
no problem. Kusum को कोशिश करने दे हम. Kusum will try. Kusum, can you contribute?
Yes, ma'am. It's a nursery to second class in 5 nursery.
Okay.
Yes,
Next
ma'am.
we are
3rd to 5th, next one. And next one is 6 to 8th. And next one is 9 to 12th.
9 to 12. Perfect. Can you try writing this in the chat box for everybody, which you've already written? Can you actually tell me 5 is equal to what? Perfect.
Yes, ma'am.
Got it close in. All the people who contributed actually zeroed on to the real answer. They were getting closer to the answer. And finally, Kusum, I think about the complete picture. So thank you, Kusum and Rita.
Thank you, ma'am.
And Neelam and Sushma. Thank you. It is perfect. There is one more input that I got. Devinder has written mother tongue as a medium of instruction. Devinder, could you explain to this, this one, what you've written here? What can you just elaborate? ये क्या लिखा है आपने? These are all very important points. Perfectly, it's all correct. Very, very, absolutely on the point. Can you just elaborate further? देवेंद्र, आप हैं यहाँ? I can even switch over to Neelam ma'am, because she's also kind of written the same thing in different ways. She's written early childhood years can be in vernacular language. Ma'am, if you could just tell everybody.
Yeah, ma'am. Actually, it has been observed that in the early childhood age, if we introduce some other language, the children are not able to comprehend what they are learning. It is more of rote learning. So this new education policy is little giving relaxation to the school that let the child learn in the mother tongue, or we can say the vernacular language, so that they will be able to understand what they are learning. Basically, it is for languages and the mathematics, which the numbers they don't identify. So in a playway method, they want to introduce these things in the early childhood.
Absolutely.
Because the basic problem which has been observed by the schools, that the children are not getting the right base. That is the failure of our education system. So to make it firm, give a good root to it, they have done this. Thank you.
Very correct. So basically, when we talk about early childhood years can be in vernacular language. Suppose my school happens to be in, let's say, Bihar. Okay. And if we need to bring down the entire explanation in Bhojpuri, हमारा purpose है उन तक concept पहुंचना. So whether I'm using Hindi or English or Bhojpuri should not matter. What if there is a child in Punjabi who's got a Punjabi as a mother tongue? What is the rule? Do I have to think of the rule at that point of time? How do we go about it? What should be the take in a situation where the location of school may be just about anywhere, any state, but there are multilingual people in that? How do we handle that situation? Anybody you can contribute to this discussion?
Ma'am, they have not forced upon completely that it should be in vernacular language. The medium could be Hindi also, or it could be English also, but they have advised. It is not a force upon. It is advised that it should be. Sorry.
Absolutely. Perfect. Perfect. So what we need to keep in mind is that we need to have people who are, we need to have the language which is understood by most of the people. Okay. Which means that my focus is on the concept building. My focus has to be in the meeting the learning outcomes. My purpose has to be whatever is being executed in the class, which is well understood by every child who's sitting in that room. Which means that whether I'm switching over to Hindi, to English, to Punjabi, or even to the sign language, or even maybe I'm doing certain expressions of my face, or am I actually indulging in dramatics, or I'm probably going around and singing a song. My purpose is that when you look at, I don't know how many of you have the book in front of you. If you look at the article 1.2, which is on the page 7, it talks about not only the vernacular language, it talks about the various ways, whether it's a craft or drama or this or that. So the intent, that is why I keep saying, whatever is the circular from your principal, whatever is the education policy from HRD minister, whatever comes down to you, look at the intent. Till you do not understand the purpose of it, till you do not understand the goal that the particular piece of paper or a pages of document is trying to achieve, till you do not understand, we can sit and criticize. If you look at CCE, which really happened in 2009 October, it came into being. Now, why did it fail? Was it a bad policy? Probably not. I do not say it was a bad policy. So there is a lot which is in our hands, there is a lot that you and me can do. People have given us a guidance, and it's a wonderful document. If I have to go through it line by line, it really looks into that concept that no one is left behind. And it does not just talks about no one should be left behind. It also talks about the implementation, the ways that we are going to make it happen. Make that phrase, no one is left behind, make it, we actually realize that and really make it happen. So, so that is why it is very important to understand. Now, if a simple concept like 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4, what does it mean? So far, what was our system? What was the structure that we were following all this while? Anybody can tell me? It was simply 10 plus 2, no? What Indian education system we were following? We were simply following 10 plus 2, which means that 10 years of school education and 11th and 12th, that is 2 years of secondary, senior secondary education, and you're out of the school. Government had not recognized the value of kindergarten curriculum. They somehow did not talk about foundational years. And what they have realized, and as a result, there was a whole lot of learning gap. When a child came into class 1, what that person should have learned in all these years was missed out. I don't know how many of you are aware of the brain development theory. The brain development theory says that maximum a child picks up, whether it's a language or all those cognitive abilities that we want a child to pick up, all that happens in 0 to 7 years. अगर 0 से 7 years के बीच में बच्चा unstructured पढ़ाई पढ़ रहा है, whether he is with a child or a tutor or a parent or an Anganwadi or a gaon ka school or a very progressive Delhi ka school, where the child is, it will depend on what the child is learning, what the school has designed as the curriculum. So looking at all this, somewhere down the line, what happens is we do miss out on a whole lot of things. We do not understand the purpose behind it. So what they decided is, let me put down a very formal curriculum for kindergarten years as well. So when they talk about the structuring, they talked about, it's not moving forward, yeah. So they talked about the entire curriculum for ECCE. Now, can we have the text back, and can anybody write to me what is ECCE? ECCE, any idea what it is?
It is the elementary education, elementary curriculum.
So elementary is actually first and second. Now they're also
early curriculum for the early years.
So early childhood care.
Early childhood care, evaluation, or I'm not getting.
Education, very simple.
Yeah.
Ma'am, it is early childhood care, education care, I think.
Let's put the care and education. That puts us.
Yeah, care and education.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Early childhood care and education.
Care
Yes.
and education, right now.
Perfect. So what does it include?
It includes the pre-primary classes also. It included the nursery and the KG kindergarten classes as well. And then it became important that the child should start learning the concepts of the letters as early as kindergarten. Not in nursery, they said should be only oral work. And then KG, where the concept should be developed for the child to understand, recognize and understand only, not the written part.
So what it means that it is.
It's working on numeracy and literacy. Literacy and numeracy they want to work on.
Yeah, so that is what they want us to know. But it also includes, when we talk about cognitive abilities, we won't
And development.
Yeah, so all those developmental goals of a child also have to be met. All those milestones, whether they are psychomotor domain related or affective domain related, or it is a cognitive domain related, all has to be developed. So when I talk about literacy and numeracy, it only talks about the cognitive. Where will the skills come in? How would you have your motor skills develop? Whether we are talking fine motor skills or gross motor skills, how would you bring in those attitudes, that psychomotor, the affective domain? How are you going to affect the affective domain? So everything, if you look at it, it includes not just the education, since it's a very tender year, it also talks about the care. And if you look at the government setups, they already had Anganwadis in the villages. Many of you would have, especially the social science teachers, would have heard about it if you've not heard about it through the newspapers. What are these Anganwadi workers? They're simply 10 plus people, or sometimes 8 plus ladies who were in the villages, and they were they would be center in charges of Anganwadis. Anganwadis would be giving certain food to these people, midday meal kind of stuff. And these children would be coming to Anganwadi 2 to 4 years or something like that. And they would be studying little bit of learning. It would happen there. And this is how the government would probably try to teach those age children. And there was no compulsion of students to be in the school. There was no structured curriculum for these kindergarten years. And as a result, whole lot of learning years were missed out. So I'm so happy as an educationist that government has actually brought in this entire foundation, and they have clubbed in class 1 and 2 together. So how does it go? The 3 years of preschool, which you can call it nursery, LKG, UKG, you could call it Mont 1, Mont 2, Mont 3. Basically, they are -1, -2, -3 years before the class 1. So these 3 years of kindergarten and those 2 years of 1 and 2 have been put together and put it as a 5 years. And this comes under your foundational years. These are the foundational years, which is in this where the early childhood and care education would be imparted, and the NCRT and there is another there's a proper framework which is being created. There's a proper framework which is being created, and it is called a national curricular and pedagogical framework, and it is specifically for early childhood care and education. It is NCPF ECCE, something like that. Let me put it down here. NC national. How does it go? How does it go? Let me make sure. NCPF. This is a national
it is
curricular
national early
and pedagogical framework, and for ECCE. This is how it goes. So, so it will not just be a simple informal learning that the students are going to have. It is going to be proper structured, which the Ministry of HRD or Education, now that is what it is called, will be bringing out. And Anganwadi, even the it will become a Bible even for the parents who have decided for homeschooling. Even they are going to follow this particular framework, the entire curriculum framework. So this is something very, very progressive that has been brought into. Now, if I remove this, is my chat box visible to you, or is just the slide which is visible to you?
And the slide is visible to us, and chat box, whenever someone types, then we are able to see that.
Okay, fine. So now what am I doing here? There are certain new things. There are new features of NAP that I've listed here. Now, how many people have got the book? Can we just write yes, 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 yes here, whether it is in PDF form or it is in the hard copy form, so that I know this exercise is not futile? Do you have PDF in your gadget? Do you have this PDF somewhere? Okay. Tanya, I did send this PDF to ma'am. If it can be put up in the chat box.
Ma'am, you can mail us and we'll share with the teachers.
Can it be done right away, or can it be put in the chat box?
You can share with Meenakshi, ma'am.
I have done it. I've done it.
Okay, okay, you have done it. Okay, let me check, ma'am.
Otherwise, I will actually...
Rita, I haven't got it.
Let me just send it again. Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Ma'am, just check your WhatsApp.
Milgia, I'm just forwarding it to Vidushi. Vidushi, please share it on the screen.
Sure, ma'am.
Can we have individually in their WhatsApps? Because it's an individual exercise.
Ma'am, sending, Neela ma'am, I'm sending to you, Rashmi ma'am. You can share it with the girls.
Perfect.
Are there any teachers from Pinecrest? नहीं इसमें see बेटा this is the document, ये नहीं forward हो रहा है.
आंटी स्टेथोस्कोप किसने बनाया है?
हाँ रुक जा ईमान. संदूक के पीछे बैठा है.
Can you please mute yourselves, man? Rashmi ma'am and Neelam ma'am, I've shared it with you. Devinder sir, आपको भी भेज रही हूँ.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sharing it with the teachers.
Received,
right
ma'am.
away.
Received. बैठ जा दीपा और साइड होके बैठो ताकि तुम्हें नींद ना आए.
Ma'am, please, I would request you to mute yourself.
Are there any teachers from Pinecrest?
No sweat. I think we get going because we have very little time left. So basically what I wanted to do with everybody is using the chat box. I just wanted to, what happens is when this document is up, it has been up for grabs since last 2 years, but not very many people have gone through it. And somehow the teachers, especially since they just have to do their some subject knowledge domain transaction in the classroom, they somehow feel these policies are not for us. But what we do not somehow realize that whatever we do in our classrooms are resultant of or should be oriented towards our larger objective. These learning outcomes are basically related with the educational goals. So what are the benchmarks that our students must achieve, and why are we actually doing all this? So towards that, I wanted to do speed read. I thought half an hour we are going to use to speed read this together. So now, how many people have the document? Can I start? Yes, like I have it. I have it. So how many people have the document and are able to open it and are able to refer to it and look through it? Because we are going to now do a game in which we are going to try to find what we are going to talk about now. So it's going to be kind of open book test kind of thing where we look into these words and understand and try to derive. So we have 2 people who say 4, 5. No, that includes me. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 people. I'll let it hit 10 and then I start. 6. Usha, you want to say something? You got it. Okay, you raised your hands. Perfect. Great. So as people are opening their own PDFs, all those people who have got hold of it, I want you all to find out, like for example, the very first the very first box that you see is of ECC for all by 2030. NCF says that now for the first time, early childhood care and education has been brought into the formal setup. And they have said that there'll be proper national curriculum framework that'll be created for ECC. Where does the NEP talk about this? The column is 7A. I would want you all to find where it is. And in the chat box, I would want you all to write it this way. I would say 7A that you write over here is available on page 7, 1.1. 2. You get me? Do you get me? Can we go around doing little speed reading like this? Neelam, maybe start. Page 8. Wonderful. Page 8, which article? Which section, Sonal? (1.2) specifically, perfect. And then actually the entire one article talks about early childhood care and education. And it says what is the purpose of bringing it. Sonal, would you like to talk about what you just read? Little bit about it, whatever you read. सोनल हम बात कर सकते हैं थोड़ी सी. Sonal is not there. Okay. Let me take. Are we there? Okay, then we have also, let's come to the fourth in the first column. School preparation module for all class 1 entrants. Everyone who comes to class 1, they will be prepared for they'll be prepared for being school ready, class 1 ready. What is that module called and where does it exist in your NEP? It is in the initial pages itself. It does talk about ECC only because it is of the class 1. Can anybody find this out? हम हिंदी में भी बात कर सकते हैं, हम ये सब नहीं भी कर सकते हैं, हम सीधा theory पे भी जा सकते हैं. I can simply explain what has been written in the slide. You choose your way. I will adopt your way. Can somebody talk? Anganwadi. Anganwadi is an old concept, Shailaja, which is there in existence since long. And it was actually created to strengthen the basically the very high quality infrastructure it was brought in, and the whole lot of play equipment that was thrown into it. And basically they wanted the local primary schools to make use of it, and they brought in a whole lot of toys and educational toys so that the learning happened. This is an old concept. Yes, the Anganwadi, since they are going to give children to class 1, what is that they must go through? Absolutely. Ila, can you tell a little more about Bal Vatika? आपने जो भी पढ़ा पहले नहीं भी पता था, अगर आपने अभी पढ़ा, can you tell everybody about it? ईला, आपस में बात करने में शर्म आ रही है, मुझसे शर्म आ रही है, क्या हो रहा है, मुझे समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. Why this dynamics of people not speaking to one another, or is it my presence?
Actually, ma'am, I don't know about what is Bal Vatika.
हाँ, बट आपने ये पैराग्राफ ढूंढा ना, आपने बुक से ढूंढा, कहाँ से ढूंढा?
Actually, मैम मुझे ना स्लाइड जो मुझे शो हो रही है उसमें 7E पे प्रिपरेटरी क्लास और बाल वाटिका फॉर 5 to 6 year old लिखा है, तो मुझे ये समझ नहीं आ रहा व्हाट इज बाल वाटिका.
बाल वाटिका इज अ प्रिपरेटरी क्लास. क्या हो रहा है कि suppose the NEP comes into implementation today, we already have Anganwadis working. In schools, in government schools, we only have classes from class 1 onwards. Now suddenly ये कहाँ से बच्चे ready हो जाएंगे जो class 1 में with all the required parameters or learning, what is required, all those learning outcomes that they would have met, they would reach here. What will happen? How will it happen? So they decided, the government has decided, they have envisaged, they have thought about it, they have planned about it. It is not yet in position. Anganwadis are already there in these rural areas. Bal Vatikas have to be set up. These Bal Vatikas will only be the preparatory class, which will prepare all these students who are in the foundation years. Whatever they have missed out of the education of, say, nursery, LKG, UKG, all those foundation years ki jo learning unki miss ho gayi hai, that would be taught or they would be prepared for in Bal Vatikas, and then they would be sent to the class 1. Understood? And this Bal Vatika will have an ECCE qualified teacher.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, this is what the preparatory class, and it will work on play-based learning. That is what Principal Ma'am has said, bilkul correct. And they are going to be, like I said before, they are going to focus on cognitive. Cognitive matlab, ये 3 चीजें हैं, ये 3 वर्ड आपने पहले से सुने होंगे अगर आपने B.Ed किया है तो. Cognitive, affective, psychomotor. Cognitive, brain. Affective, mind. Psychomotor, hand. Head, heart, hand. Head, heart, hand. This is how we distinguish between these 3 kinds of domain. So, kabhi bhi koi bhi learning hoti hai, am I touching the student's head? Am I making changes in his understanding? Am I making changes in his heart? Am I teaching him how to use his hands? So hands will be equivalent to skills. Hand would be equal to psychomotor development, while the heart would be equal to attitudinal changes. Heart would be equal to the attitudes. Head is related to cognitive. Heart was affective domain. So that is why you understand what technical लगता है when we sing cognitive, affective and psychomotor. Psychomotor फिर भी समझ में आता है because motor as in चलाना किसी चीज को, it's like hand movement. So doing something with your hands, with your body, throwing ball, catching, dribbling, basketing, and all these are or writing beautifully, filling within the apple. All these are psychomotor development. When I'm walking, it's a gross psychomotor. If I'm learning to take a needle and thread this thing through the eye of the needle, it is what is a fine motor. So all these are motor skills. So it is a psychomotor domain that I'm working on. The psychomotor domain will also come into play when I am playing with my clay model, when I am putting certain pieces together, when I'm fitting a ring into a hoopla loop around my body. All these are psychomotor. And when I'm talking about affective, attitudinal changes, my heart is changing. I understand, I feel, I understand what is happening around me. I'm able to comprehend what is happening around me. Cognitive is related with head. Cognitive is related to knowledge. Then it is a knowledge, not attitude or not a skill. So I don't know if you have understood, heard about ask model.
शुरुआत से करना क्योंकि काफी गैप हो गया ना, बीच में सब भुला गया होगा. शुरू से करो.
Okay, so EQ, what you write, Neelam, here is the emotional quotient, and emotional quotient comes into play when we are talking about our attitudinal changes.
Effective, ma'am. Heart. One of the important measure to test the student these days. So the education policy also is big, yeah.
Yeah, very correct. But then do we only concentrate on testing? Won't we concentrate on building?
We have to develop it, ma'am. Not testing. We have to develop EQ now, because earlier everybody was working on IQ. Of late, it has been realized that we need to work on EQ also.
Absolutely, very correct. So there will be, when we talk about EQ, there will be many more cues will come into scene. Even when we are talking about emotion quotient, have I talked about self-awareness? Have I talked about interpersonal relationship? Have I talked about, all these emotional quotients have got subsets. And all that comes
also part of EQ, ma'am.
Yes,
yeah. So new education policy basically speaks on all these topics.
All
So that
these
is
also, all these also, very correct, very correct, very correct. And it does talk about skill development. So that is where your hand comes in. That is where your psychomotor domain. I am trying to, there will be, I really do not know what is the age group of children you people are handling. It's a new audience for me. So I am trying to bring in those three terms, and I'm trying to build a connection. When I say cognitive abilities will also be, say, CVC words of class 1, or AC motor and DC motor of physics of class 8, or say integration and integration differentiation of maths class of class 11th and 12th. All these will come under cognitive ability development. So cognition, the brain develops very early. All the learning that happens is built upon the old scaffolding. It scaffolds over the old learning. I have a schema. I know something. I know about pencil. I know how does this work. I know this is wood. I know there's a lead inside it. Now, if I am trying to invent another pen or another mode of writing, I am going to make use of my old learning, and building upon this old schema, I am going to come to the newer schema, newer knowledge, newer learning, newer understanding. And this is how, that is why we keep saying, build over the old knowledge of the child. He will understand better. What a child already knows, build over it. Scaffolding is very important. They talk about it, right? So, yes. Coming on to what we have here, we did talk about Balvatikas, very correctly mentioned by Ela and touched upon by Shailaja and elaborated by Neelam. Perfect. Do you know where does it talk about we have already talked about medium of instruction, that is mother tongue should be in local language, vernacular language, regional language, at least up to grade 5. Where is this suggestion? Where is this suggestion in the section that it talks about? I'm sure it will be under ECC only. Can you pinpoint the section where it talks about it? Meanwhile, there are a lot of stuff which I've written in this slide. If you look at this slide, I have written a whole lot of points here, which are the new features of your NEP. Any point that you see here, can anyone find it out in the NEP and bring out where have we talked about special education zones? Where have we talked about gender inclusion fund, KGB is up to class 12? Where have we talked about curriculum to integrate in Indian culture and ethos? Where have we talked about it? Can you bring it up and put it in the chat box? Section 1, page 1 or something like that? Can we do that for next 2-3 minutes?
नहीं आ रही मैं तो सोई ना बैठी थोड़ी देर आके
What are Bal Bhavans? Where have the Bal Bhavans been talked about? Okay, page number 26, 6.6. What are we talking about, Tavashyam? Can you come on audio and tell us? Page number 26 पे क्या पढ़ा आपने? What are you talking about? Tavashyam, can we speak? आप बात कर सकते हैं? Tavashyam, are we going to speak at all? Or is it just my day? Am I audible at all? क्या हम शर्माते हैं बहुत एक दूसरे से क्या? I'm not able to understand the dynamics. Tavisham, can we, you have referred to page number 26, 6.6. इसमें हुआ क्या? What did we talk about in this? Special education zones, right? What are special education zones? I wanted to do little speed reading. That's why I thought we will do it this way. Otherwise, मैं एक column लेके मैं बात करना शुरू कर सकती हूँ. I can continue doing that way also. But then it will probably just be a formality. Neelam, would you like to talk about only the ECC in detail? How do we go about it? I will like to serve the way you would want. We can switch all this off, I think. We can just remove this. Let me straight away come here. Rashmi, aapne likha hai 7C, page 11. So we were trying to do speed read. I'm so glad few of you are doing that. So Rashmi, what are we talking about here? Point 4, point 1. Perfect.
Yeah, I just wanted to read it out.
Yeah.
This is regarding the restructuring of school curriculum and pedagogy in a new 5+3+3+4 design.
Perfect.
It is 4.1, para 4.1 says the curricular and the pedagogical structure of the school education has to be, it will be reconfigured to make it more responsive and relevant to the developmental needs and interests of the students at different stages of their development.
Absolutely.
And it will correspond to the age ranges of, sorry.
No, perfect. Go.
Ranges of 3 to 8 years, 8 to 11 years, 11 to 14 years, and 14 to 18 years, respectively.
Yeah.
And the curricular and the pedagogical structure and the curricular framework for school education will therefore be guided by 5+3+3+4 design, consisting of the foundational stage.
Yeah, so very clearly talks about how it will be structured. It talks about the years and it talks about the importance.
It will be 2 years in the preschool, plus 2 years in primary school in grades 1 and 2, both together, and then covering ages 3 to 8. Later on, then it will be class 3, 4, and
Yeah, Rashmi. Yeah, that was perfect. That was perfect, Rashmi. Yeah.
Rashmi Batra, she is the principal of SRF Vidyalaya. That's a school which is being run by the Sri Ram Foundation. You know?
Nice, lovely. Where is it located, Rashmi?
it is in, we are in sector 40, block Q, South City 1 in Gurgaon.
And what ages of children do we have?
See, the children are from nursery to class 4 as of now. Every year we've been adding a class. So in the coming session, it will be class 5 as well.
Rashmi, you know what people like you, the people who are at the helm, what learning they take, like I said in the beginning, every policy we are trying to correlate with the actionable points at our level, right? So what schools have already started doing when we kind of decide how would be our leadership, how would our leadership be like? For example, suppose the school decides for principal and there will be a vice principal, and then we do an HM of junior HM, we do a prep in charge and things like that. Most of the schools who are progressive have started restructuring their leadership model as well. What they have said is we will not have a kindergarten head, or for example, what you would call it, a pre-primary head or whatever. They have started taking foundation heads, foundational years head. So that means a lady who's looking after the administrative and the curricular activities of class kindergarten will also look into 1 and 2, right? Because they started looking into the entire foundation years, 5 years as a block. So this is the change that a progressive school head brings into the organizational structure. Right. And how does now a lady who's in the foundation year, who's head of foundation, what does she do at her level? When she designs a curriculum, she builds in a continuum from, there is a proper scaffolding from prep, those -3 years, 2 + 2 years, all 5 years, there's a proper continuum. Even if I'm talking with the psychomotor domain, how is my child here and what would my child be here? So there is a less de-link between the kindergarten and class 1, which was very, very obvious even in the very, very progressive schools, because the head would be different. So there is a whole lot of, when we talk about policy, what are the actionable points for us is what should be. I think that is what Meenakshi ma'am's objective is, I mean, it is not really that you all must read up the NEP. Read up the NEP for the sake of understanding the actionable points. My take on the entire 2 days was to be, we do the theory today, we understand, and so that there is a little interest generation to read what is here and how does it impact. And then we come back. In case ma'am would help me in this, the kind of people who we are talking to today, are they all in the junior classes? Then I can pinpoint and then only read up those portions so that we can actually go little in-depth analysis. And what do I do? Like, for if you look at my, what I thought is, depending on what kind of conversation we have today, I was going to set the goals for the next meeting. If I have an open discussion and before I actually wind up or whatever, close or take a few more topics, let me see the goals for the next meeting so that I understand the learning gaps. I understand the wants of the people who are here. What would you want to get better in? Would you want to have some outcome-oriented classroom? What do basically, whatever the NAP says, that can go to hell. I don't want to read the NAP. Would you want I simply bring in those techniques of the classroom or the activities that you must have? Given an example here. For example, I just touch upon value education. I don't talk about NEP at all. I just pick up a topic from NEP. NEP says that we must talk about, bring out the well-rounded people, and they must be so oriented toward the society, and we must be nationalists. There must be a nationalist kind of feeling within us. There should be love for country. Then even when they talk about the curriculum development, they even talk about bringing in those kind of heroes, which are local heroes, into your curriculum. So there's a whole lot of intent. How do we go about it in our classroom? Do we pick up those kind of techniques? Like, for example, if I have to do a value education, I can bring in speed meet, I can do transverse meet, I can do a snowball toss technique.
Rita, can I step in?
Yeah.
Rita, can I step in?
Yeah.
The whole idea was, everybody has been tom-tomming about NEP all the way for the last 2 years. But I'm sure, like, we have at least these 2 schools, SRF Vidyalaya, and I think there is a sizable number of teachers from Shishu Kalyan. Everybody, while hearing about it, does not really know the nitty-gritty of how to implement it into their classrooms. Right? That's where I wanted your help to share with them to how to implement it, the operations part of it.
Okay.
How do they inculcate what the NOP is saying into the classrooms? And I actually had hoped that the teachers would interact, because for ma'am to come and talk about it is one thing. If you girls do not come forward and discuss what is in your mind, there are no wrong answers, right? We are all learning. If we engage with each other, we are bound to go back enriched. Otherwise, what I'm seeing is it's just a one-sided thing which is happening. Now, that's not, while it is, yes, we're going to go away with some learnings, but there would be a lot more takeaways if we were interacting with ma'am, asking her questions, answering her questions, because when we discuss with each other, we empower each other, and knowledge is power. So girls, please come forward, talk to ma'am, ask her what is it that you want. So when we meet on the 10th in the afternoon, she has the answers and she can help you, liven up your classes.
So I take this one point from what Meenakshi ma'am has kind of culled from whatever happened in last 1 hour or so. Implementation is what more valuable. Each time when we talk about the implementation, I need to correlate with what is written in the NAP. So reading an NAP somehow becomes important, even if just leafing through like a novel and just picking up certain portions that kind of interests you, because suppose you are a kindergarten teacher, maybe you just read 2 pages. pages 7 and 8 or whatever. And if you're the one who is, say, training center in charge, then you just read about how the teacher education and how does that help. So whatever interests you, can just pick up that and read that and ask questions. Or I could probably just do this next time, 1.5 hours. I don't say anything. Let it be an open question answer session. I can even do it that way. Or I could start, say, half an hour with certain techniques, which you can actually do it in the classroom, just as an icebreaker, and then we come back. I'm just speaking aloud and talking aloud. Otherwise, I'm ready to jot in here what are goals for the next meeting. Anybody, what should I put in here? Ma'am has given me 1 point, implementation of NEP in the classrooms. This is again a very, very wide topic.
And if the teachers are shy of asking, please type it in the chat box so that there is some takeaway at least from today's session.
Yeah. So you can put it on the chat box. I will copy and paste here because this is the slide I will take for myself. What should I, how do I design my next session? Yeah. Any point that I can add here? Neelam, would you like to speak?
So Neelam ma'am has written dissemination on skill development.
Okay.
Ma'am, I want you to just inform the teachers how can, along with the syllabus, along with the curriculum, they can work within the classroom on the skill development of the student, because that is what the NEP asks, make them skillful. So,
okay. So when we say this, which age group are you looking at?
Yeah.
Accordingly, I will, if it is a skill, if I'm talking about a kindergarten child, I probably just have to teach him how to button his shirt, right? And if I'm looking, so every age group will have what age group are you looking at, Neelam?
Ma'am, we have the classes right from kindergarten till 12th. So I don't want you to just elaborate class-wise, but yes, the teachers, when they're teaching, how they can just improvise their own lesson plans by adding.
Yeah, but it will be important. I will, in that case, taking cue from you, what you've said, I will at least give an example of each year. For example, a foundation, I'll do it according to the way NEP has done. I will give 2-3 examples of foundation, 2-3 of, say, 3 to 5, likewise.
Yeah,
okay?
that's a wonderful idea.
Exactly, yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
That's a good take-home homework for me. Anybody else who wants to add? And any other? I mean, we don't have to restrict to 3. I've just written 3. You can go to 4, 5.
Shelly ma'am, you have any thoughts on this? Shelly, are you there?
Shelly's there, but I don't know whether she's around.
That's why I prefer to have the videos on so that, you know. Shelly ma'am, are you there? Anyone else would like to ask?
Or what do I put up in my next meeting in 1.5 hours so that it's interesting for you, something that you want to learn, not something that I want to teach you or Meenakshi ma'am wants to teach you.
Ma'am, we would like you to focus on the improvement of the spoken languages as well.
Focus on spoken language. How to teach that? That's what you want?
Yeah, something which is means the policies, do they hold something?
No, they don't. Rather, they say that importance is on the concept building, whether the concept building comes in through vernacular language or through play-based learning, whichever method you want to adopt, whether you're adopting a theoretical skills you're developing, whichever way you want to adopt, as long as what you want to teach is taught well. That is most important. Rather, they're not, what they're talking about languages is that it says that the languages are picked up best in the early years. They are picked up in the class, in the 0 to 7 years. So what initial thought was, if you know, our middle school has that 3 language formula. We do teach 3 languages in 6th, 7th, 8th, English and the Sanskrit, or English and the French, or some other place, English, Telugu and French and things like that. That's a law in CBSE, right? We have to have 3 languages. They're trying to bring it down to the lower classes. What they're saying is because the brain development happens and the language is picked up maximum in the early years, that is what. So language usage, spoken, all that they are not concentrating on. They are saying any language that the child is comfortable in, because more important is to do the concept building. Yeah. Any other question or any?
Ma'am, one thing I would like to know, how should we plan our curriculum for the next session? What does NEP says? How should be the curriculum of a particular class?
So Nidhi, it's a very, see, it's like, what do I say? प्रिंसिपल मैम ने स्कूल में वो किया, असेंबली किया, और उन्होंने बोला कि मुझे सब आई मस्ट हैव दोज काइंड ऑफ एक्टिविटीज इन द स्कूल which would develop motor skills. ठीक है? Now a teacher in class 1A or a teacher in class LKGC, such a big thing, she just said this. And if this teacher says कि principal ma'am ने क्या बताया था कि क्या करना है motor skill development, नहीं बताया principal ma'am ने. Principal ma'am ने सिर्फ ये बताया कि motor skill development in the kindergarten classes are important. Now for this person, it is for this person to decide how will that happen. बीच में स्कूल में आपकी prep in charge आएंगी, who will be like a curriculum developer for you. Okay. And you will be execution person in the classroom. What happens in the NEP? NEP comes from the HRD ministry. So it is a macro document which gives us what would we want our education to be like. What would we want our students or tomorrow's citizens, what kind of skills and attitudes and knowledge that we would want them to have. How would we go about it is also they have given macro picture. We will have school clusters. We will organize us this in this way. We will adopt a vernacular. We will have teacher sessions. We will have 4-year B.Ed programs. So they have given macro. Now NCTE will decide if teachers should have 4-year B.Ed program. What should I put it in these 4 years? How do I make, what do I put in every class of the, so they will never, sorry, what was your question you said?
What should be the exact curriculum for the kindergarten, or you can say for the primary section?
Yeah. So what they are saying is, so policy has not really, I will just pick up the paper and say what they have written. What they have simply said is your curriculum has to be flexible, multifaceted, multi-level, play-based, activity-based, inquiry-based learning. So they have told you about, it should be targeted towards logical thinking. It should be targeted towards problem solving skill development and things like that. In short, they are not telling ki ABCD padhao. They are not telling colors sikhao. Why are you teaching? For example, can anybody who's in lower classes here, dealing with lower classes, tell me, why do we do color day? Just simple question. Why do we do color day?
Just to make the student recognize about the colors.
Why not from the book? Why not from the book? Why can't I show you the slide and say this is orange color? Then why do you make them wear the dresses?
Ma'am, visualization.
ये देख के भी तो visualize हो रहा है. सामने देखो मेरे slide में orange है. Little more Kanika. You are pretty close. Visualization only on this orange which is there on my slide, or only that red which is in his book.
If hands-on activities.
Yes, Rashmi.
Hands-on activities will help the child to understand better and keep it for a longer time.
What activities? I have just made them wear red color dresses. Then what happens after that?
Ma'am, child will see for the whole day. He is observing all the students are wearing the same color.
Okay, again. Perfect, perfect. Will they be wearing the same red, all of them? Or will there be different shades of red, different hues of
different
red?
Different shades.
So observation will help them learning it fast.
So
faster.
they get exposed to variety of reds. So there is not just one red. There's a deep red, there's maroon red, there's light red, there's blood red. You understand? Right. And then there is a correlation of that red color with some activity that you make them do. So there is an integration of, what do you call it? That integrated learning that is happening, right?
Right.
So this is what, when we are talking about the
it is
curriculum.
part of experiential learning also.
Yes, it is an experiential learning because you're viewing it yourself, you're comprehending yourself, and you're taking away all those hues, all those shades of red back home in your memory. It has Rita's red frock, and it's Minakshi's red ribbon, and it's got Rashmi's red t-shirt. They go back with all those colors, a red tiffin and things like that. So you're very right, it's also experiential learning. The same experiential learning takes a different shape as you come into the higher classes. that experiential learning will not be limited to observation. It will be doing, hands-on. There'll be a lot of changes in the same terminology as you touch the higher classes. So how would the curriculum be developed? Coming back to your original question, the larger framework of curriculum will definitely be developed by the authorities, that is National Curriculum Framework. The job of NCF is on NCERT, that is the apex body in India. And there are state level bodies which are SCRT. Whatever NCERT decides, that is how it goes. But at your level, you have to create your developmental goals. Okay, you know, this is the macro development. For example, my class 3-year-old child must be able to walk on a straight line. Now, this is my macro objective. How do I make that child walk in this line would be doing this game and making a line, making him walk, and all those kind of activity that you make a child do. It is towards a larger development goal and a short-term learning outcome of those 40 minutes that they are in the class. So, so I put it here. How does, so what, tell me if I'm not understanding your question. How does the policy impact what goes on in the classrooms? Is this your question? Can I rephrase your question in this way? How does the policy impact what goes on in the classrooms? Any other?
No, this is also very important.
Sorry, I missed you.
Ma'am, this is also very important. The policy, I mean, the teachers should be aware with the policies that what type of teaching are they imparting to the students in the classrooms, whether it is going to help them in the long run, whether it is going to build them right now, they're present, and how it is going to impact the children, and how the children going to gain out of the type of their teachings in the classroom which is going on. This is very important.
Yes, absolutely, Rashmi, very correct. Any other input that you would want me to cover in the next one? Are we all comfortable with breakout rooms? Can we do, how comfortable are we with technology?
Rita, I think that's a brilliant idea, because then we'll be able to, have a wider canvas and have a lot of takeaways. At least the DLF Foundation team is familiar with breakout rooms, and they will help.
So I will need a technical assistance from your team. They will create.
We'll provide it. We'll provide it. Yeah.
And then we create breakout rooms according to the levels that these people are handling. That'll be better.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. So I'll probably create a text for आपको ही भेज दूंगी मैं, and then Tanya can take it forward.
जी. I wanted to request, because the girls are feeling shy to ask questions, and actually they are more equipped to ask the relevant questions because they are in a real life, classroom.
Absolutely.
Real time situations, not us at the foundation. The other thing is, what we can empower our teachers is how to reinforce the concepts that they are teaching. Because there's a lot of stress and focus on conceptual learning for numeracy and literacy, and how can they, reinforce that? Would the teachers at least in the chat say, do you think it is a valid request to make? Or are you already equipped to do the same? If you're not, if you are, then we can take up something else.
No, ma'am, it's a very valid question what you have said. This is also very crucial and very important.
Yeah,
once the concept is explained to the children, how it was going to help them further on, and whether it is reinforced, whether the child is able to understand, comprehend, and then express, is very, very important. And very few children get the opportunity of the help from the parents to carry on with the studies in the proper way. Whatever they have been taught in the school, the parents help them out to understand what exactly it is. Sometimes they are not able to understand what is being taught in the class. But some of there are very few parents or maybe the tutors who help them out in this way. We want something like it should be through the policy. We should be learning. The teachers should be learning how the reinforcement can be done, whatever they are being taught.
Yeah, so Rita, what Rashmi ma'am has said, many of the parents, I don't know what kind of gentry or the background that the children come to from to their schools, but our DLF scholars, their parents are almost, I would say, illiterate. They have no exposure. 15 साल का बच्चा चौथी में जा रहा है, 5वीं में जा रहा है, उनको आइडिया नहीं है कि you're playing merry hell with their lives. These children are going to be 6 or 7 years behind their peers, right? Okay. So I want that at least, we can strengthen their concepts, and there are any innumerable ways where it can be done.
Okay.
So if we can empower our teachers with those skills, how to strengthen these concepts and in interesting ways of strengthening it.
Because at our level, we can only guide them, but it is up to the teachers to implement them.
Yeah.
Because they are the ones who are spending most of the time with the students in the classes.
Yeah.
And they are interacting individually with each child. So they know what exactly each individual child needs. What is their understanding? What is their comprehension? What is their expression? This only a teacher can understand. So, ma'am, this is very important that we really need to strengthen the concept and reinforce it.
We teachers, everybody can get out of the scene.
Right.
The moment learner takes the onus of his own learning, we will all be redundant. So let's do it that way. Let the entire approach to teaching change be changed in this way, that the learner takes the onus of learning. And how do we make it happen is what I focus on.
Ma'am, I would request you, since this policy has 66 pages, and if possible, we can take 10 to 15 pages in each session and then elaborate. But before that, before you conduct the sessions, we need to do the spade work so that we are ready with it. We are ready with the points, and then we can discuss it and take it further.
I'm totally okay with that. But then how many
sessions? No, Meenakshi ma'am, what do you suggest?
So, Rashmi ma'am, firstly, I must tell the audience today, Rita and my husband, they are from the same battalion.
Okay.
And I am so beholden to Rita. Her family is going through so many health challenges. Despite that, I had to make one request, and she was more than forthcoming to, do these 2 sessions for us. Of course, at the outset, let's first do 2 sessions, right? And then we'll see how it goes.
No, that's what I am requesting now.
But you see, no, certainly. Firstly,
it can take, we can, maybe for a long period of time.
No,
maybe in another 4, 5, 6 months.
Yeah, I get your point, Rashmi. For now, for Monday, if I'm not wrong about the date, on Monday, I try to take these 4 points. If I'm not able to do justice to all 4 in that 1.5 hours, I will not take all. I'll probably just concentrate on 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on how do I put the entire 1.5 hours of discussion together. Because when we do breakout rooms and we are doing discussions ourselves, we somehow, are you all equipped with the Google slides?
Yeah.
So what we will do is, I will create a Google slide, I'll share the link, and you people will be making those Google slides for me.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah,
and then we come back in the main room when all of us break out and we talk about either we do this or we do what Rashmi suggested the next meeting. We all read up various sections and then we create slides of those various sections and come back with it. Whichever way, if you want. This is going to be interesting what you've told me for my next meeting. NEP discussion is going to be a little boring. We can come back to that if you want. Maybe subsequent a month later or something like that. Whichever way. I mean, whatever Meenakshi ma'am decides, we'll do it up. So we will use the Google Slides. I will not get into quizzes. I will not get into Mentimeter. I will not get into technology. What if it fails at certain level? You will not be participating, because I really wanted you all to chat a lot in the chat box. That is the easiest to do. Like ma'am said, thoda sa open ho jao, chill out, shake yourself out of your shy zone, no, not comfort zone. You guys are too much into comfort zone. Get yourself out of the shy zone. I'm sure we can learn a lot from one another. I'm also
Actually,
hoping
ma'am,
to learn a lot
sorry.
from people.
You know
Please
what
carry.
happens, Rita? What happens is what the audience needs to understand. You know, while we talk of experiential learning, we ourselves don't practice it for ourselves. When we engage with each other, we learn from each other's experiences.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you all need to come forward. We learn so much from Rita, ma'am. We learn so much from you.
Yeah, I will go back.
Yeah.
More learners.
Sometimes what happens is younger people, they have that many more ideas. Yes, Neelam, ma'am.
Actually, I really appreciate the idea, the way you ask the teacher to read and then put up the page number. So this is one way of teaching them that this is also a method of teaching and learning. So if during your lectures only you, in a playway method, you just tell them that these are the way of teaching and learning process. Because today, indirectly, you have taught me a lesson. Okay, this is also a way to make the children engaged in the class. Telling them, okay, this is the page number, open book, textbook kind of test. So this I like.
I don't tell you to open the page number. You tell me to open the page number. You said, I found it.
Yeah, whatever
You
way.
have
Whatever
discovered
way.
it yourself.
But
I wouldn't approve of the other way that you talked about.
What this is my
I get you what you're saying.
takeaway from today's complete discussion, that I have learned another way of, okay, how to keep the student engaged, how to get more input from their side instead of me teaching all the time. So although I find it very, very interesting. So I want you to just inform the teacher more of these kind of methods.
Okay, so a little homework. Just read that page of, I will